You know, sometimes you just stumble across something that makes you stop and think. Like, picture this. You're out for a walk, beautiful countryside, and there it is, nestled in the hills, an ancient stone circle. You know, at first glance, just a bunch of old stones, right? But then you find out they're not random at all. They're aligned with the solstices, like perfectly. Tells you exactly when the seasons are going to change. And it makes you wonder, what else did these people know?
That's exactly what drew me to Earth mysteries in the first place. Going beyond, the typical archaeological approach, digging deeper, so to speak, into the meaning, the purpose behind these places.
It's like they're trying to tell us something.
A hidden language, maybe, whispering across time.
And that's what we're getting into today with Paul Devereux's Earth Memory, am I right?
Exactly. Devereux takes us on this amazing journey through how ancient cultures viewed their world, how they were connected to the cosmos, the Earth, even to unseen energies.
So not just what these places are, but what they meant to the people who actually built them.
Precisely. What they were trying to achieve. Like, take Stonehenge. Everybody knows it's not just a pile of rocks, right?
Lovely.
Like the giant astronomical observatory. The solstices, the lunar cycle, it's all there.
Yeah.
But it's more than just a calendar. It points to a deep understanding of time, cycles, maybe even a connection to something bigger than themselves.
Reaching out to the cosmos.
Exactly. And it's not just Stonehenge. Silbury Hill. Now, that one looks like just a giant mound of earth. But recent research, you know what they found? It aligns with this very specific event, a double sunrise. And get this, that phenomenon. It's directly connected to the ancient Egyptian myth of Osiris.
Hold on, are you saying Silbury Hill in England has a connection to ancient Egypt?
That's right. It suggests possibly, a shared knowledge system spanning continents. These cultures, as different as they seem, they might have shared a way of understanding the cosmos, the myths,
That is incredible.
And it gets even more interesting when you bring in sacred geometry.
No, we're not just talking shapes here, are we?
No, it's more than that. Devereux, he describes sacred geometry as a language.
Yeah.
It was a way for ancient cultures to mirror the patterns, the proportions that they observed in nature.
Yeah.
Everything from, the smallest atom to the biggest star.
Like that Vesica Piscis shape he talks about. That one really jumped out at me. It's everywhere. You see it in ancient sites, Christian art, even the human body.
Exactly. Chartres Cathedral, Glastonbury Abbey, they all feature the Vesica Piscis. It's like this continuous thread of knowledge.
Yeah.
Passed down through countless generations.
Hidden code.
Woven into the very fabric of these sacred spaces.
So we've got these astronomical alignments, this secret language of geometry. But what about the stories? Every ancient site seems to have its own set of local legends, myths, all that.
Those stories are essential. They might seem like fantasy, but they often contain clues, encoded information about the history of a place, its purpose, adds a whole other layer of meaning to these already mysterious places,
So if we want to really understand these ancient sites, we need to listen to the stories, study the geometry, and look to the stars for answers.
Exactly. It's about taking in the whole picture, understanding that these sites, they were designed to interact with the world on multiple levels: physical, energetic, even spiritual.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just getting started. Where do we go from here? What other secrets are we uncovering today?
Well, next, we're going to dive into something that might seem, a little out there at first. Get ready to explore the world of geomancy. We're talking about ancient cultures that didn't just observe the Earth's energy, they learned to work with it.
Geomancy. Okay, I gotta admit, that word always makes me think of, like mystics with dowsing rods and things like that.
It's easy to get caught up in the stereotypes. But think about it this way. Have you ever walked into a place and it felt different?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
A sense of peace or like a palpable energy.
Yeah.
That's what geomancy is getting at. It's about recognizing that certain places have unique energetic qualities. And ancient cultures, they were tuned into these subtle forces.
So it's like these places have a certain vibe, and these cultures, they knew how to read it, work with it even.
Precisely. It's about tapping into the Earth's energy, how places are interconnected,
Right.
the power of natural forces. Think about ley lines, for example.
Oh, here we go. Ley lines. Those invisible energy lines that, connect ancient sites all over the globe. I've always been a bit skeptical of those, to be honest.
I can understand that. It can sound, well, a little out there. But think about it. You have cultures all across the world, totally separate, right? And yet they all develop these systems, these practices that line up with the ideas of geomancy, like take feng shui. It's all about placing things in harmony with the landscape to improve the flow of qi, life energy, right?
Right.
And Native American traditions, they place huge importance on specific landscapes, sacred sites. They get it too.
So it's not just some like fringe belief. Cultures all over the world were onto something here. But how did they even figure out where these energies were? Did they just like sense it somehow?
Many cultures had this concept, kind of like what Devereux calls the omphalos, the navel.
The navel?
Yeah, it represents the center, the heart of a place, energetically potent.
Okay.
It was often marked by a stone, maybe a spring, some kind of natural feature. This spot, it was seen as a connection point, between the heavens and the earth.
So each site had its own energy center, its omphalos, and then these centers were often connected to other important points in the landscape.
Exactly. A whole network of energy connecting these sacred sites, almost like a giant circuit board pulsing with the Earth's energy. It's a very different way of thinking than, how we see things today. But it might explain why these ancient cultures were so deliberate about where they placed these sacred spaces.
That's incredible. But can you actually measure this energy? Is there any scientific evidence to back it up?
That's the big question, isn't it? We don't have a universally accepted scientific answer for what Devereux calls earth energies. But there is some pretty intriguing stuff out there. There have been cases of weird light phenomena near ancient sites, magnetic anomalies, that don't make sense. And then there are the dowsers who say they can actually sense these energies directly.
Right.
Devereux even talks about this place, Carning, England. It's in Wales. A compass, a normal compass, it goes haywire there, like there's some unseen force messing with it.
Wow. So you're saying these sites could be tapping into some hidden energy source, maybe even a kind of consciousness we don't fully grasp?
Devereux explores that very idea. He makes these connections to scientific theories, like the Gaia hypothesis, the idea that the Earth itself is a self-regulating system.
Wait, are we saying that the Earth itself might be conscious?
It's a big idea.
Yeah.
But if these ancient cultures were so in tune with the Earth's energy, how did they use it? What was it for? That's where it gets really interesting. Devereux talks about shamanism. Shamans would use certain practices, enter these altered states of consciousness to communicate with the spirit of the land.
Wow.
He even mentions that stone at Machu Picchu, the Intihuatana stone. The suggestion is it could have been used to access other realms of reality, other dimensions even.
Okay, now my head's spinning a little bit. Are we talking about ancient sites as gateways to other dimensions?
Devereux doesn't give us all the answers, but he opens up these incredible possibilities. He wants us to consider, what did our ancestors know about the Earth, about our connection to it that we've lost touch with?
This is all so mind-blowing. We've gone from ancient astronomy to a conscious Earth and now other dimensions. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, there's something else I wanted to ask you about. Devereux talks about correspondence and symbolism. What's the deal with that? How did those fit into all of this?
Those are key, to understanding how these ancient cultures saw the world. It's like, imagine trying to understand, a language without a dictionary, right? You wouldn't know what any of the words mean. That's what it's like looking at these sites without getting the symbolism.
Okay, so we need to decode the language, but what does that actually look like?
So correspondence, it's about recognizing that things that seem totally unrelated, they might actually have this hidden connection. It's about these patterns that repeat, everywhere. The small stuff, the big stuff, it's all connected.
Finding those common threads. Can you give me an example? How does this work in practice?
Think about the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
Right. In so many cultures, the sun, it's masculine, logic, action, all that.
Right.
The moon, it's feminine. Intuition, cycles, emotions, these are fundamental archetypes. They show up in stories, symbols, everywhere.
Like yin and yang, right.
Exactly. And these symbols, they weren't just, abstract ideas. They were built into these sacred places. Chartres Cathedral, for example. That incredible rose window, it's got all this solar and lunar imagery woven into it, probably representing, the union of those opposites, the balance of masculine and feminine energies.
So it's not just decoration, it's a message. It's like they were speaking through the architecture.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about, understanding it with your head. It was meant to speak to something deeper. Tap into a different level of understanding.
Right. Now, Devereux also goes into alchemy and magic squares. Where do those fit in?
It's all connected. It all comes back to this idea that there's more to reality than what we see. Alchemy turning lead into gold, it wasn't just about, chemistry. It was a metaphor for transforming yourself, your spirit.
I see.
And magic squares, with those numbers, it was about, like, cosmic harmony, these hidden relationships in the universe.
So they were using these systems to explore not just the outside world, but also, like, their inner world.
Exactly. Their consciousness, their spirit, it was all connected. These cultures, they had this much more holistic view, not just compartmentalizing everything like we tend to do today.
It's pretty amazing. So what do we do with all this? Should we all become alchemists now and start, like, studying magic squares?
Well, I don't know about all that, but we can learn from how they saw things. Remember the power of symbols, look for connections. Approach the world with a bit more, a sense of wonder.
Be open to the mystery of it all.
Exactly.
Well, this deep dive has been quite the journey. We've covered so much ground: ancient astronomy, geomancy, even the possibility of a conscious Earth.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's a lot more to uncover, a lot more questions to ask.
And that's what's so exciting. It's a never-ending exploration. For those of you listening, we encourage you to keep digging into this stuff. Check out Devereux's book, see what resonates with you. Who knows what other connections, what synchronicities you might find out there. The journey's yours to take.